In the convoluted labyrinth of contemporary society, there exists a shadowy cabal at the center, a clandestine consortium of nefarious intent, whose devious machinations exceed the bounds of mere criminality. This elusive criminal cabal, shrouded in layers of deception, orchestrates a grand design to transmute the very essence of humanity into a mechanized semblance of technological enslavement. This scheme, a perverse amalgamation of technological prowess and occult psychological manipulation, seeks to ensnare the unsuspecting populace within the cold embrace of automated subservience, enslaving the body and eventually erasing the soul. This documentary will seek to explore a fast-approaching agenda in which the individual is rendered obsolete, assimilation is inevitable, and the hive mind is formed. Welcome to the Reality Sideshow. With the advent of modern technology, we have entered an era in which the human being has become increasingly more akin to a software program that is both hackable and alterable.
I'm here today to tell you that we're actually hacking the software of life and that it's changing the way we think about prevention and treatment of disease. So here's all the biology you need to know in 30 seconds. Our body is made out of organs. Our organs are made out of cells. And in every cell, there's this thing called messenger RNA, or mRNA for short, that transmits the critical information from the DNA, our genes, to the protein, which is really the stuff we're all made out of. This is the critical information that determines what a cell will actually do. And so we think of it like an operating system. And so if you could actually change that, which we call the software of life, if you could introduce a line of code or change a line of code, it turns out that has profound implications for everything. If you think about what it is we're trying to do, we've taken information and our understanding of that information and how that information is transmitted in a cell, and we've taken our understanding of medicine and how to make drugs, and we're fusing the two. We think of it as information therapy.
With the realization that human beings share some fundamental properties with computer programs, the power-hungry and control-seeking groups in our world appear to have concocted, via conspiracy and cunning, an ultimate and final destination for the majority of humanity: a hive mind. The term hive mind is used to describe a group mind in which the linked individuals have no identity or free will and are possessed or mind-controlled as extensions of the hive mind. It is frequently associated with the concept of an entity that spreads among individuals and suppresses or subsumes their consciousness in the process of integrating them into its own collective consciousness. The concept of the group or hive mind is an intelligent version of real-life superorganisms, such as a beehive or an ant colony. A global brain is a formal term given to what could also be classified as a hive mind. A global brain is said to represent a unified consciousness. This consciousness would operate as a superorganism, composed of humanity and humanity's technological innovations. While it is difficult to think of making a life form based on metals that can mine its own food, it is possible to imagine a superorganism that incorporates humans as its cells and entices them to sustain it, just as our cells interwork to sustain and serve us as human beings. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin was a Jesuit priest and philosopher who in the year 1922 developed the theory of the noosphere, which essentially would act as a global brain. More specifically, the noosphere represents the highest stage of biospheric development, that of humankind's rational activities. As mankind organizes itself in more complex social networks, the higher the noosphere will grow in awareness. This concept extends Teilhard's law of complexity and consciousness, the law describing the nature of evolution in the universe. Teilhard argued the noosphere is growing towards an even greater integration and unification, culminating in what he called the omega point, an apex of thought and consciousness, which he saw as the goal of history. World Brain is a collection of essays by the English science fiction writer H.G. Wells, dating from the period of 1936 to 1938. Throughout his essays, Wells describes his vision of the world brain as a new, free, synthetic, authoritative, and permanent world encyclopedia that could help world citizens make the best use of universal information resources. The control of information and how it is disseminated is ultimately what the global cabal is seeking to accomplish with the creation of a global hive mind, which is connected to artificial intelligence. Wells's vision of an authoritative and permanent world encyclopedia creates a scenario wherein humans will pull information from a centralized source. The glaring flaw with this is that centralization creates the opportunity for a power dynamic to arise, wherein few have control over the many. And when discussing the area of information, it is important to remember that information and how it is presented is ultimately responsible for creating perception. Thus, the centralization of information creates the opportunity for the few to have control over the perception of the many. In modern times, our information, which provides context for reality, is generally gathered through the medium of exchange known as language. Alphabet is the parent company of censorship machine and search engine Google. This is but one of many examples demonstrating the issues that arise when information and its access are centralized. This exact same concept can be applied to the global brain, or hive mind. Many people in today's technological society turn to search engines such as Google when attempting to find an answer to a question they may have. In the future, a global brain and hive mind could allow a person to think about a question and receive an answer almost instantaneously in their mind. If information, perception, and reality become centralized, what exactly is preventing a power structure from emerging that can ultimately dictate and control the hive mind?
Five to 10 years from now, search engines will actually be based on not just looking for combinations of words and links, but actually understanding, reading for understanding the billions of pages on the web and in books. So you'll be walking along and Google will pop up and say, Mary, you expressed concern to me a month ago that your glutathione supplement wasn't getting past the blood-brain barrier. Well, new research just came out 13 seconds ago that shows a whole new approach to that, a new way to take glutathione. Let me summarize it for you. 20 years from now, we'll have nanobots, because another exponential trend is the shrinking of technology. They'll go into our brain, through the capillaries, and basically connect our neocortex to a synthetic neocortex in the cloud, providing extension of our neocortex. Now, today, I mean, you have a computer in your phone, but if you need 10,000 computers for a few seconds to do a complex search, you can access that for a second or two in the cloud. In the 2030s, you need some extra neocortex. You'll be able to connect to that in the cloud directly from your brain. So I'm walking along, and I say, oh, there's Chris Anderson. Oh, he's coming my way. I better think of something clever to say. I've got 3 seconds. My 300 million modules in my neocortex isn't going to cut it. I need 1 billion more. I'll be able to access that in the cloud. And our thinking then will be a hybrid of biological and non-biological thinking.
Plans for creating a centralized global knowledge network, or global brain, long predate Google or H.G. Wells's vision. Andrew Michael Ramsey described in circa 1737 an objective of Freemasonry as follows: to furnish the materials for a universal dictionary. By this means, the lights of all nations will be united in one single work, which will be a universal library of all that is beautiful, great, luminous, solid, and useful in all the sciences and in all noble arts. This work will augment in each century according to the increase of knowledge. A group as concerned with hidden knowledge and secrecy as Freemasonry is surely a group to be wary of when considering the implications of a Masonic-sponsored encyclopedia and global brain. In 1926, extending the analogy between global telepathy and the nervous system, Nikola Tesla speculated that when wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain. Not only this, but through television and telephony, we shall see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were face to face, despite intervening distances of thousands of miles. And the instruments through which we shall be able to do this will be amazingly simple compared with our present telephone. A man will be able to carry one in his vest pocket. These early visions of a global brain appear to have culminated, for the time being, in what we currently refer to as the Internet and World Wide Web. The Internet Protocol was developed by the U.S. Department of Defense via its research arm, DARPA, and the World Wide Web was developed at the Particle Physics Laboratory, CERN, through the work of Tim Berners-Lee. The complexity scientist Dirk Helbing and his Nervous Net group have recently started developing a planetary nervous system, which includes a global participatory platform as part of the large-scale Future ICT project, thus preparing some of the groundwork for a global brain.
Our next speaker is Dirk Helbing, who's a professor of sociology at ETH Zurich. He has his PhD in physics and is also affiliated with the computer science department there, and really, truly interdisciplinary in the theme of this conference. I'm sure many of you have seen his fairly innovative work on the dynamics and interaction of both pedestrians and vehicles. He's really developed the ideas of social forces and self-organization. He's doing some really exciting work these days with Living Earth Simulator, And very curious to see what he's got for us today in terms of the nervous net. So take it away, Dirk.
Many of the problems we face with are global problems, and they can only be solved in a global effort. And in particular, it's very important to make an interdisciplinary approach. And this is why computational social science is so important, because it brings together social scientists with computer scientists and natural scientists. So this is really great, most needed. We can measure the spreading of international tension. We can predict wars to some extent. That allows earlier intervention. We can predict epidemic spreading. And we can also predict nicer things such as global knowledge production, spreading of ideas, or even culture. The question is, what else could we do? And people have been asking, can we soon know everything? Or can we create a crystal ball that would see what's going on in the world at any place, at any time, or even predict the future? This was actually not the plan of Future ICT, but people are discussing these kind of things, and that's why I need to address it over here. Could one even run a country like a wise king or a benevolent dictator? And if one wanted to do this, then it was necessary, certainly, to manipulate people's choices. And that might be done with personalized information. So in fact, the question is, will we be remotely controlled? Or is this already happening? In fact, of course, we have personalized ads, and these personalized ads are intended at making our behavior change, make us buy certain kinds of products. And then the idea might be of some people that if your behavior cannot be changed the way the government wants it to change, then you could still use predictive policing, you know. So the question is, I mean, that sounds a little bit scary, I guess, and that's why we need to talk about it. The question is, could such a society be built, and would we want to have such a society? And what are the alternatives? In fact, we're talking here about a cybernetic society, and so I personally believe that we need to focus on creating collective intelligence, which is a distributed intelligence that can handle the combinatorial complexity of the world. It can be adjusted to the problem. So our smartphone actually is today's universal tool. I don't actually use it to make phone calls. And the most interesting thing is hidden inside, which is the kind of 15 sensors to measure almost anything. And there will be even more sensors in the future. What can we use this for? Well, we can connect those smartphones in order to build a global measurement system. But if we want to do this, we want people to use it and participate, and it's important that we build a system that we can trust. And that's why I advise to build this as a citizen web. If one company or one government would collect all the data that will be becoming available through the Internet of Things in the future, you know, we couldn't do a step or say a word without being recorded. So I really think this should be created and managed by the citizens themselves. And it's very important that you are in control, that you can control what kind of data are being recorded and whether you're just using it for yourself or whether you're sharing it with others. And even after the data have been shared, it would be nice to have control of the data that have been produced, and for this, a personal data store could be used. It has been developed at MIT by Sandy Pentland's team. Well, this is not a dream anymore. No, this is already happening, and my nervousness team, young, dedicated people, have been working on this to make it happen. And in fact, the planetary nervous system can do a lot of things for us. It can do real-time measurement, and this will allow us to create greater awareness of chances and risks of decisions that we might take. We might use the data in order to advance science, and also we can enable self-organizing systems and collective intelligence.
The future ICT is described as a project which was once said to be developing what is known as the Living Earth Simulator, a proposed massive computer simulation system intended to simulate the interactions of all aspects of life, human economic activity, climate, and other physical processes on the planet Earth as part of the future ICT project. The Living Earth Simulator and future ICT project all fell under the umbrella of the Future and Emerging Technologies flagship. The Future and Emerging Technologies flagship competition offered a 10-year, €1 billion funding to the winning teams. The competition attracted over 300 international teams. The Future ICT project was not selected, and thus the Living Earth Simulator is officially said to have never been developed. Instead, the two winners were Graphene and the Human Brain Project. The Human Brain Project was a €1 billion scientific research project that ran for 10 years, from 2013 to 2023. Using high-performance exascale supercomputers, it built infrastructure that allowed researchers to advance knowledge in the fields of neuroscience, computing, and brain-related medicine. Its successor is said to be the eBrains Project. The eBrains Project is also said, by its own admission, to be working on what is known as brain twin technology. eBrains states on its website, this platform intends to better bridge the gap between molecules in the patient's brain. The project will focus on psychosis in schizophrenia patients. The blatantly propagandized magazine, Scientific American, ran an article on its website in 2013 titled, Why People Believe in Conspiracy Theories. A quote from the beginning of the article highlights the supposed connection between people who agree with conspiracy theories and the onset of schizophrenia. People who harbor conspiracist thoughts are also more inclined to paranoid ideation and schizotypy, a mild form of schizophrenia. Controlling the belief systems of the masses, especially those who are beginning to understand the full scope of a multi-generational global conspiracy aimed at enslaving humanity, is paramount for the global cabal. Controlling the mind, and more importantly, perception, through pathologizing conspiracy theorists as schizophrenic, is but one small step in a long and psychotic plan devised by a global and criminal cabal in order to construct a hive mind of human consciousness. As previously stated, along with the Human Brain Project, the other winner of the Future and Emerging Technologies flagship competition was Graphene. These two research projects, the Human Brain and Graphene, are interesting selections due to how the human brain could possibly interface with graphene.
Graphene provides several advantages when compared to current solutions, often made of metals like platinum. Firstly, graphene is soft and extremely flexible. It behaves as an electronic skin that enables perfect brain surface contact. Moreover, graphene leads to miniaturized brain sensors with a cell-like size, up to 40,000 times smaller than platinum-based sensors. This is less invasive and avoids unwanted side effects. Finally, graphene interfaces are easily coupled with modern electronics, contributing to the huge momentum of connected and smart devices, which is the key to future medtech and digital health solutions. Another key benefit of InBrain's graphene-enabled brain interfaces is their high resolution. Graphene devices offer 64 sensing dots, 16 times more than conventional platinum brain mapping grids. This gives doctors and surgeons a much-needed precision. When operating on brain tumours, for instance, InBrain's system will map the biomarkers related to functional areas doctors must avoid, minimizing the otherwise frequent complications of brain surgery. In the future, InBrain and the Graphene flagship will bring less invasive graphene-intelligent neuroelectronic therapies to the market. These systems will decode brain signals into medical solutions. Further down the road, these devices may advance brain-computer communications and other neural engineering applications.
It has been proposed by several academic researchers across the world that the COVID-19 vaccines, which debuted in 2020, contained or possibly still contain the substance known as graphene. For a focused, granular, and in-depth look at this particular topic, please watch the documentaries on the Reality Sideshow BitChute channel, Artificial Intelligence Mind Control, Part 1 and Part 2. Dr. Andreas Noack was a German chemist who claims to have converted graphene oxide to graphene hydroxide as part of his doctoral thesis. After viewing several fringe scientific reports demonstrating that the COVID-19 vaccines contain graphene-like nanoparticles, Dr. Noack, through his expertise in the field of carbon research, suggested that any amount of graphene in the COVID-19 vaccine will act as a nanoparticle razor blade. This is due to the fact that graphene is the strongest material known to exist in our universe at this time. It is said to be only 1 nanometer thick and 200 times stronger than steel. If graphene, with its physical properties, exists or existed in the COVID-19 vaccines, then this could offer a potential explanation regarding all of the very strange side effects that have been exhibited by people who have had the COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Noack believed that these graphene nanoparticle razor blades would cut people to death from the inside.
Also da gibt es einen Professor von der Universität Almeria, das ist Professor Dr. Paolo Campa Madrid. Der hat eben diese Impfstoffe auf Graphenoxid untersucht, mit Raman, mit Mikroraman-Spektroskopie. Da untersuchst du Schwingungen. Eben, da gibt es Schwingungsbanden. Diese beiden Schwingungsbanden sind einfach wichtig. Und da sieht man, dass es kein Graphenoxid ist, sondern Graphenhydroxid. Die Strukturen im nanoskalischen Bereich kannst du am besten als Rasierklinge darstellen. Das sind eigentlich Rasierklingen, die da in den Körper gespritzt werden. Nanoskalische, extrem kleine Rasierklingen sind quasi nur eine Atomlage dick besteht. Und das ist einfach ein riesengroßes Molekül, was extrem scharf ist. Ich bin Aktivkohlespezialist. Ich habe in diesem Bereich gerade auch, wie du jetzt so aus diesem Graphenoxid, Graphenhydroxid machst, damit habe ich gearbeitet in meiner Promotion. Ich bin zum weltgrößten Aktivkohlehersteller gegangen. Und ich war dann nach einem Jahr zuständig für New Carbon Product. Wir hatten neue Aktivkohleprodukte in unserem Portfolio. Wir hatten so eine kleine Firma in Houghton String zwischen Newcastle und Durham in England gekauft. Und ich war europaweit zuständig für New Carbon Products. Ich war im Application Scouting. Opfer zu analysieren, zu obduzieren, die finden nichts, weil die ganzen Toxikologen machen ihre Tests in Petrischalen. Ja, die kommen aber nicht drauf, dass es solche Strukturen gibt, die die Blutgefäße zerschneiden.
Dr. Nowak was subsequently raided by German special forces while giving a live stream presentation on the topic of graphene and its relationship to the COVID-19 vaccines. Details are murky. However, it appears that about 1 year after German special forces raided Dr. Nowak's house, he died of a heart attack.
I had to find, one time they wanted me to find out if there was such a thing as a poison that was undetectable, especially one that seemed to mimic a heart attack, that would kill someone, but it would appear that they had a heart attack. I did find such a thing.
Does this pistol fire the dart?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
The poison was frozen into some sort of dart, and then it was shot at very high speed into the person. So when it reached the person, it would melt inside them, and the only thing would be like one little tiny red dot on their body, which was hard to detect. There wouldn't be a needle left or anything like that in the person.
But also the toxin itself would not appear in the autopsy?
Yes, so that there was no way of perceiving that the target was him.
Have you brought with you some of those devices which would have enabled the CIA to use this poison for?
We have indeed.
For killing people?
The round thing at the top is obviously the sight. It works by electricity. There's a battery in the handle, and it fires a small dart.
And the dart itself, when it strikes the target, does the target know that he's been hit and about to die?
A special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
As a murder instrument, that's about as efficient as you can get, isn't it?
It is a weapon, a very serious weapon.
As difficult as it may be to continue with this line of thought, it is of paramount importance to understanding how our world currently operates and functions. We must now ask why. If graphene nanoparticles do exist or did exist in the COVID-19 vaccines, why was this ingredient added? Genocide and mass murder could offer a potential explanation, seeing as how graphene acts as a weapon in the form of a razor blade. There is, however, another possible explanation: total mind control. We have already seen that graphene is exquisitely strong and an excellent conductor of electricity, making it a viable candidate for brain-computer interface technology. Ultimately, it is virtually impossible to determine what the goal of the COVID-19 vaccine was from the perspective of the global cabal. Most risks that this group take appear to aim at achieving a range of objectives. So perhaps the COVID-19 vaccine is no different in that regard. With that being said, perhaps one of the objectives for the global cabal was to test the effects of graphene on the human population via the COVID-19 vaccines. It is my belief and opinion, based on the evidence we currently have, that this experiment was performed in order to devise a uniform approach for eventually connecting every human brain to a hive mind cloud architecture that will interface with artificial intelligence for purposes of control. This is, however, not suggesting that this agenda will take its full form anytime soon. The global cabal has demonstrated its ability to devise its plans on a timescale that covers centuries. attempting to create a version of humanity that serves technology and artificial intelligence in place of spirituality is but one of the many machinations crafted by the global cabal, aimed at depleting and eventually deleting a part of humanity that is more divine than material. In the year 1917, in a lecture titled "The Fallen Spirits: Influence in the World," Austrian occultist Rudolf Steiner predicted there would be a vaccine that would drive out any inclination towards spirituality in human beings. I have told you that the spirits of darkness are going to inspire their human hosts, in whom they will be dwelling, to find a vaccine that will drive all inclination towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are still very young. And this will happen in a roundabout way, through the living body. Today, bodies are vaccinated against one thing or another. In future, children will be vaccinated with a substance, which it will certainly be possible to produce, and this will make them immune, so that they do not develop foolish inclinations connected with spiritual life. Foolish here, of course, in the eyes of the materialists. Black goo is a term that has been used in the conspiracy research community to define the symbolism that can be found throughout various forms of media depicting what resembles graphene. This video of graphene in a live environment demonstrates why graphene has been subsequently referred to as black goo. The image shown here is a magazine cover featuring Global Cabal mouthpiece Greta Thunberg. The one-eye symbolism is to be expected. We can also see that Thunberg is covered in a slimy and gooey black substance. Thunberg appears to act as the Global Cabal poster child for change. Thunberg once sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to promote her propaganda work, known as human-caused climate change. The one-time name of her sailing vessel was the Edmund de Rothschild. With that being said, it would not come as much of a shock to see that she has also been chosen to symbolically reveal the transhumanist agenda through the use of graphene. Officially, Thunberg is said to be covered in what is supposed to represent oil. Machines are the future version of humans if we don't put an end to this agenda, and some machines also happen to run on oil. This video is of singer and songwriter Billie Eilish. This is said to be the official music video for her song titled "When the Party's Over." In this video, we can see the black goo pouring from Eilish's eyes and coming from within her body. The image pictured here is a perfume bottle for singer-songwriter Lady Gaga's perfume called Fame. Hollywood.com ran an article in 2012 which was titled "Prometheus's Black Goo Found in Lady Gaga's Perfume Bottle." A quote from the Hollywood.com article reads as follows: "For anyone who's seen Prometheus, a very similar looking black substance wreaks havoc on everyone in the film. Zombification, total DNA destruction, red eyes, itchy skin, you name it." Lady Gaga also used a commercial to promote her perfume called Fame. In the scene shown here, we can see a figure whose head is hooked up to what resembles electronic cables. This could be symbolically seen as the future generations of humanity that will be connected to AI via graphene, acting as a brain-computer interface. Pop culture and celebrities are used as tools to advance an agenda of total human enslavement. Using celebrities to promote specific ideas appears to act as a ritual form of magic. The founder of the Church of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, stated the following regarding the inherent influence that celebrities possess. Celebrities are very special people and have a very distinct line of dissemination. They have communication lines that others do not have, and many medias to get their dissemination through. The examples of black goo symbolism that we find throughout various media is perhaps in some way connected to an ancient Egyptian ritual, which commemorates the Egyptian deity known as Osiris. A blog post by the British Museum provides more of the details. The blog post is titled Ancient Egyptian Coffins and Mystery of Black Goo. The images shown here are various ancient Egyptian sarcophagi and artifacts that appear to be covered in a black goo. The British Museum blog post states the following in regards to the mysterious black goo in the ancient Egyptian deity, Osiris. When someone died, they were said to become a form of the god Osiris, who is associated with death and rebirth. Osiris was called the Black One in various funerary texts, and is often depicted with black skin and in the guise of a mummified body. Black is also the color associated with the alluvial silt deposited on the banks of the River Nile after the annual flood receded. Since this fresh and fertile soil provided the ideal environment in which seeds for crops could germinate and grow, it was viewed as being inherently magical and regenerative. Clay and wooden seed beds in the shape of Osiris, filled with black soil from the Nile and sown with germinating seeds, were sometimes included with the funerary equipment in New Kingdom burials. So, we have interlinking concepts of black, Osiris, and regeneration. It could therefore be reasoned that the practice of coating coffins in black goo links the coffins to regeneration associated with Osiris. Osiris is indeed a deity who symbolizes death and rebirth. In the case of the black goo ritual in modern times, the death could be viewed as that of the original human race, and the rebirth could be viewed as the new human race that will be more machine than human. The crook and flail were symbols used in ancient Egyptian society. They were originally the attributes of the deity Osiris that became insignia of pharaonic authority. The shepherd's crook stood for kingship, and the flail for the fertility of the land. The crook and flail are traditionally crossed over the chest when held, making the shape of an X. It has been conjectured by some conspiracy researchers that the letter X, which can be found in the corporate logos of SpaceX and the social media company X, formerly known as Twitter, are symbolic depictions of the crook and flail, originally said to have been associated with the ancient Egyptian deity, Osiris. This theory is perhaps given more credence when considering the ostensible owner of these companies, Elon Musk. Other examples of the letter X, which surround Elon Musk's work, are the Tesla Model X and X Holdings Corp. X Holdings Corp controls the social media platform X as its parent company. However, X Holdings Corp also has 95 shareholders who all remain anonymous. This was discovered through court documents and legal proceedings when former Twitter employees sued X Holding Corp for wrongful termination. An article from techdirt.com titled "Twitter Reveals that X Holdings Corp. Has 95 shareholders that it would like to keep secret" highlights the details of this particular case. Judge Susan Ilston sided with the employees and ordered X Holdings to reveal all of its owners. She gave them until Friday to do so, leading to a hasty filing that reveals 95 entities, individuals or organizations, that hold equity in X Holdings. Though every single name is redacted, with it, the lawyers filed a motion to file under seal to keep the names secret. Much could be said about Musk and who he ultimately serves. It has been suspected by several conspiracy researchers for some time now that Elon Musk, and ultimately those who control him, are seeking to create a global hive mind through Musk's companies Starlink and Neuralink. We can again find the letter X in both of these corporate company logos. Though there haven't been any official announcements about linking Elon Musk's Starlink and Neuralink projects, Starlink aims to provide global internet coverage through a constellation of satellites, while Neuralink focuses on developing brain-computer interface technology. With that being said, this appears to be the perfect framework for a global hive mind consciousness that is connected through an artificial intelligence cloud architecture. Perhaps these possible references to the ancient Egyptian deity Osiris that can be found in the symbolic depictions of the letter X that we see throughout Musk's projects, along with the symbolic references to black goo that can also be found in various forms of media, are a type of ancient and occult ritual magic used to assist with ushering in the new age of humanity. Thelema is a philosophical and spiritual set of beliefs and practices created by English occultist Aleister Crowley in 1922. The online resource, Thelemapedia, details in a section titled Ritual Signs the significance of the ritual pose, which entails crossing one's arms over their torso so that the arms make the shape of an X. This ritual sign is said to be called either Osiris Risen, the Pentagram, or Attitude of Resurrection.